Hello, everyone. So I'm going to take the coming 20 minutes to tell you about OnionDAO and our on-chain endowment fund. First off, my name is Mentor. If you want to find me anywhere online, you can find me under the handle actually Mentor on most platforms, because my name is actually Mentor. So at OnionDAO, we run an on-chain endowment fund. And over the coming 20 minutes, I want to show you how it works, and perhaps it's something that you would find useful for one of your projects. And I'd like to take you for a minute to our origin story, which, if you know what happened on the 24th of February 2022. Ukraine, indeed. So when Russia invaded Ukraine, it doesn't affect the Netherlands, where I'm from, but you start wondering, is there something I can do to help a situation? And in those situations, I like to ask myself, what am I uniquely suited to do? Or phrased differently, what is something that's easy for me that's much harder for other people? At the time, what was top of mind for me was VPN technology. I was running a non-for-profit VPN company. I was very active in the Rocket Pool Discord, thinking about node management and that kind of thing. And I was working at POAP, which is the collectibles that you guys see strewn around this conference. So I was thinking, what if I create an easy Tor exit node setup script and give people POAPs? Now, a quick check with you guys. Who here knows what Tor is? Maybe a better question. Is there someone who doesn't know what Tor is? That makes this very easy for me. Thank you. So the one thing that is always in short supply with Tor is exit nodes. Entry nodes aren't that high risk. People don't mind running bridges, but the exit node is what makes people nervous, because that's where everyone's traffic is going to go through, including the legit, the journalists, the political dissidents, but also the people buying illegal things on the dark web. So people feel nervous about running exit nodes, but it's not actually that complicated. So I figured, what if we tap into the degens that want all the POAPs and give them a POAP if they run a Tor exit node? Within 24 hours, a number of people got interested, told me they should totally become a DAO. Someone from the actual Tor project reached out, wanting to collaborate. People were setting up their nodes. And within no time, it kind of ran out of hand. And within about a month, we ran over 3% of all Tor exit nodes. Now, of course, for the nerds here, running the total amount of nodes didn't mean 3% of traffic. We were just running a lot of nodes. They were very low power boxes because people just wanted to get their POAP. But it did trigger the realization that there's a lot of fellow nerds out there who really don't mind running a Tor exit node, especially if you give them a little something. So that triggered the next thought process. For me, what matters always is results. And what to do for those results, I'm quite ambivalent about. I have this conversation with friends a lot. Some people find morals more important. I personally think the world should care less about moral purity and more about the changes that you want to affect. And in this case, what I was wondering is, what if we don't give POAPs, but give people actual money, or ETH, to run an exit node? Will that incentivize people to run more of them? Enter Octant. Who here knows what Octant is? That's far less. There we go. Who remembers Golem? You guys have been around for a little while. So Golem had a huge treasury, and in part of it, they decided, what we're going to do? We're going to stake all of the ETH that we have, which is quite a lot, and we're going to use the proceeds of this stake and use it to fund public goods. So what they do is, if you have the GLM token, every epoch you get to choose whether you claim the staking rewards for yourself, or you distribute them to public goods. And if you do so, then your money gets matched. So we asked Octant whether we could join in a grant round, and we won a grant of about, at the time, $30,000 in ETH. And we decided to put it in an endowment fund. Now, the definition of an endowment fund is that it's a fund, so a financial entity that invests money and only ever distributes the returns of the money. So the nice thing about that is the returns basically come forever. So you never run out of money. Downside is, of course, you're not distributing the principal, so you're not giving as much money, but you can create long-term alignment. So what we figured we'd do is we take the ETH, we stake the ETH, and then we only distribute the rewards of the ETH staking. Which results in a situation where you get ETH rewards forever. And the hypothesis was this will attract people who will run long-term nodes for Tor. because for them it's not actually that useful for people to run exit nodes for a week or a month just to get a quick return. So in the words of Naval Ravikant, you want to play long-term games with long-term people, and that's the idea behind running an endowment fund. So I drafted up a contract which runs an endowment fund with ERC20 tokens, and I'll just quickly run you through the principles of how the contract works. So I'm not going to go like super deep into the tech, but if you look this up on Arbiscan, so it's deployed on Arbitrum, you can buy the functions, kind of see how it works. So the contract is owned by an owner who can, in theory, move the funds that are in the endowment fund. You make that an extremely cold key, a multi-sig, a hardware wallet, something like that. You can add accountants, and accountants can do semi-sensitive actions. They can choose where the money goes, they can add new tokens to the funds, that kind of thing, but they can't take all the money away. So that's like an administrative function or an administrative key. You can add new ERC20 tokens. So if people donate ERC20 tokens to the fund, it isn't automatically like managed by the fund. You need to take an ERC20 token, say, I expect this amount of return on it. For example, with staked ETH, it's relatively predictable. And then the contract knows what kind of return to expect. The endowee is where the money goes. And in the next slide, I'll show you how we set that up and how we make sure that we reward the right node operators with that money. Of course, you can remove an accountant, remove a token. The owner can renounce ownership. The eighth one is the most interesting function, the trigger distribution. Because we know, or we've estimated the returns for about a year, if we distribute every hour, week, month, whatever interval you choose, when you trigger a distribution, you can calculate back how much returns should have been made, and those are distributed. So it is a relatively naive way of doing this. We're not actually checking the returns. We're operating based on expected returns. So the way that we set this up, so Octant gave us the grant in ETH, because that's the rewards they get from their stake. We turn it into Rocket Pool ETH, because it's the most decentralized version of staked ETH. We have nothing against more centralized operators like Lido, but we chose the most decentralized gold standard. The ERC20s go into the endowment contract, and the endowment contract holds the funds. So whenever that distribution is triggered, based on the expected returns, it goes to a 0x splits wallet, which is a really cool application where you can create like a synthetic wallet that sends money to other wallets based on a percentage split. We have an off-chain oracle that can basically, with a hotkey, set that reward split based on like real, actual Tor contribution. So what we do is every day we query the Tor API, we look at the nodes that are registered with OnionDAO, we check the actual bandwidth that they provided, so not in theory whether the node is up, but what their network actually sees. And then we update the splits wallet to make sure that people get rewarded based on the amount of bandwidth they provide. And for my fellow nerds out there, we use a square root function to do that, just so that the powerful nodes don't like slurp up all the money. Because there is actual value in having more independent operators doing these nodes. The advantage of this is the endowment is relatively self-contained, also from a security perspective. You can set a cold key or a multi-sig that owns the contract, that administers the contract. This is something you don't actually have to update very frequently. And you can use a hotkey to update the splitter wallet. So the upsides of doing an on-chain endowment contract like this relative to, for example, a treasury for one of your community funds is the administration is super easy. So the endowment fund just returns the money to a specific location. And that location can change. That can even be a community fund where people are manually distributing things and so forth. But you never run into a situation where the treasury gets plundered, is empty, and now there's nothing more to do. So you have basically funds forever. That's the design of an endowment. And it is super flexible. The endowment, once it runs, it can point its money anywhere. And you can set it up like we did with a splitter contract or manual committees or any way that you like. If you want to run an OnionDAO node, which you totally should, you can go to oniondao.web.app and you can join us or scan this QR code. Also, I had a little chat with the Tor people, and they asked me to tell you that Tor really, really needs help. Most people forget that Tor is a community-led effort. The nodes are run by volunteers. This isn't an actual, like, the money is just donated money, and the people who run the nodes, they just do it. So if you know what a VPS is and you know what a terminal looks like, definitely run a Tor node, ideally an exit node. And if you can't do that, run a bridge node. And any donation to them, they're super happy with that because they're paying engineers to continuously develop the network. If you want to check out Octant, either to fund one of your projects or to help fund public goods, you can find them at octant.app. They have an epoch every so many months. You can apply to be joined in one of their public funding rounds. Or if you have GLM tokens, you can help fund public goods and your funds will get matched, which is kind of cool. If you have any questions, anytime you can tag me on X or anything else. Again, my handle in most places is actually mentor. And I think we do have some time for questions. I already saw a hand go up there. Is that correct, my ECC friend with the cap? We have time? I think we have time.
Hi, thanks for the talk. I think incentivization in Tor network is very important topic. But actually, recently I had the opportunity to join the talk by the Tor Foundation. But I asked about this kind of approaches, and also I know other than news, there are some other projects try to employ incentivization in Tor network. But the Tor founder said it's truly altruistic project, so he is against any incentivization in Tor network. What is your opinion?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting line. So just if I may rephrase, Tor is an altruistic network, and the founder of Tor is against making money off of it or people incentivizing things. It's an interesting line. So we're in touch with the Tor people, and I think there's a project called Anyone, if I remember from the top of my head. They even forked Tor, and they're making a real incentivized network out of it. If I understand correctly, what they're against is a situation where someone can exert control over Tor because they have a financial incentive, which means that the altruists are overrun by mercenary people. We've always had a very good relationship with Tor. They're very happy with us. I don't know if that's because we're relatively small. I don't know if that's because we're not very degen. We're just giving small amounts of money from a grant for people to run nodes. But I think it's a very interesting question. Where do you draw the line between altruism and incentives? And as I put on one of my slides, I feel like you need to do whatever is necessary to have things done. For example, if there's a fellow crypto bro here somewhere who spends a couple million feeding hungry people, just so he can, feel cool at some dinner party, I don't actually mind that. I just mind that the people get fed, kind of thing. So if you ask for my opinion, that's mine.
Thanks. Is there another question? Then I want to ask another one. Yeah, thanks. So another project I know is the session, the privacy messenger.
No. Yes, the messenger. Yes.
Yeah, messenger. So they use the Tor network internally, and seems their incentivization project kind of doesn't work because when I connect, there are only some always US servers and a few German servers. So, and what I can found was their token economics kind of failed. Mm-hmm. So do you have some bigger token economics plan for this when it's scalable?
So we've thought about this. So right now we just have an endowment fund, which is just ETH that was donated to us, and we're just streaming that. And barring the ETH price changing, it's a pretty static amount of money people get. So if ETH goes to the moon, then suddenly a lot of people will be running exit nodes, I guess. We have considered starting a separate token to see if we can get some degen energy involved, but there you run into that problem of long-term people. Because once you start doing the degen thing, the degens come in, and I love my degens, but they're not very long-term people. So it's a very good question. If you have thoughts on it, come chat to me after, because I've not yet figured out how I want to do that.
Sure, I'd like to discuss it.
All right, any other questions before we round off?
Thank you very much for the talk. I just had one technical question. Maybe it's a stupid one. Just on the graph that you showed, it seemed to me like the Oracle update was the only kind of centralized operation.
Correct.
Then do you have any plan to decentralize it?
Yes, actually. And what I'm looking for is a way to have basically an on-chain reading of an off-chain API. So I talked to the API 3 people over here and things like that, but these setups are usually quite complex. The Tor API is very simple. And currently, I have no way of querying through a smart contract and off-chain non-price feed data, because not a lot of people are interested in like Tor metrics on-chain. Once I can do that on-chain, then everything can be done on-chain. So if you have ideas about that, definitely find me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any others?
So when people run the exit node, how do they prove to you that they are actually the ones running the node and they're entitled to the money?
That's surprisingly simple. So we have a custom setup script, and the only thing that really does is it calls the off-chain oracle to just say, knock, knock, I'm an OnionDAO node. And then on the actual Tor exit node, there's a default HTTP page that is shown when you open the node that explains it's a Tor exit node. And we just have an HTML comment in there that has the address of the person. So you can publicly query like whether what was claimed is indeed what's on the server. Any more? And thank you very much.